Today, we're going to discuss a number of things. We're going to talk about how to deal with fear. What I've noticed over the last 2 months is that our behavior changes through the uncertainty that we're going through, the uncertainty of work, business, travel, connecting with others, and how the human behavior has changed throughout these two months. And I've spent a lot of time researching our behavior throughout time, thousands of years ago. And things haven't changed that much, and I want to share that with you. But the way we're going to do it today, Uday, who's going to become very, very famous very shortly, is going to sit with, we're going to have some kind of a conversation going on. And it's like a fireside chat, but we'd love you to listen to this for the next 10-15 minutes, and then I'm going to answer, I think, 10 or 11 of your questions. So welcome on board, gladiators, I salute you. It's not an easy world out there, and for you to be out there knocking on doors, trading, getting your name out there, making money, I salute you and I respect you very, very much. Today we're going to talk about fear. I can only share with you what I've been going through over the last 10 years. I think when you look back at life, and if you are ever given the gift of old age, and I think old age, we shouldn't take it for granted. Old age is a gift, right? Some of us have been unlucky or unfortunate who've had loved ones who've had that gift taken away from them, right? So they've died at young age. But I think age is a gift. And when you talk to old people, and I used to spend a lot of time talking to old people, what they remember is their experiences. Okay, and it made me reflect. And when they look back at their relationships, they look at their business, they look at their children, grandchildren, they talk about those moments of life that they remember, okay? So I was reflecting on my own life, and I've been here in Dubai for 10 years. And the first 4 or 5 years, I seriously struggled. I didn't know, nobody knew me. I didn't have a car, I didn't have money to eat. I didn't know if I could earn enough money next week to pay my rent, have a roof over my head. But over the last 5.5 years, things have obviously changed. I don't have the same worries. However, when I look back, the moments that I remember over the last 10 years are the moments whereby I was struggling. The moments that make my life memorable, right? And also, I find having moments slows your life down. The last 5.5, 6 years has gone in a blink of an eye. I've been traveling wherever I want, however long I want, press the button and go, buying, selling, driving cars, growing the business. But this 5.5, 6 years has gone like a blink of an eye. But my 4.5 years in Dubai where I was struggling, I know it wasn't nice for the struggle to last, but I remember so many moments that defied me. So, did I live in fear? Absolutely. You know, you live in fear not knowing if you're going to pay the school fees or you're going to have food on the table.
Make the rent.
Correct. So my legacy, I believe, is defined by how I dealt with fear. And I was looking into it, I was thinking, fear slows down growth, okay? And if you allow it to take over your life. But as fear goes, it's the most natural emotion that we are born with. Because for whatever it is, our ancestors or DNA has made us fear fire or heights. But nobody said fear snakes or dogs or cats or rats or whatever it is. We gained those fears from our experiences or listening to others. Like fear snakes because snakes bite you. Okay? So fear always exists. But by our DNA, it's actually we're very optimist. So if you come to me and say, look, I fear this, the first thing I say is, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. So by nature, we are optimists. But one thing I noticed is that when you succumb to fear and you think it's an unusual thing or fight it, and you live a fearful life, you don't have experiences. And when you don't try new things and you don't have experiences, you don't have a life. So what I say is that yes, of course, don't be reckless. Wear masks, practice social distance. That's the way it is. But don't allow the fear of others to dominate and dictate the way you live life. Okay? I looked at, there was a research done on people in the Auschwitz, in the German concentration camps. And it was, actually, I'm going to go there this summer. When we can go, I want to actually go and visit Auschwitz. And they had this problem of they want to work people to death. And it was like a factory of people. They work them, they kill them, and they move on. And the life expectancy of a prisoner of war was 6 months. And they expected you, the stats prove, because the Germans at the time, the Nazis, were great record keepers. And what they realized is that within the first 2 months, you will lose 30 to 40% of your body weight. No matter if you were Hercules or not, you will lose your body weight. And in the process, you will die within 6 months. But one thing they did realize is that the people who came in with fear of what's happening to their future, what's happening to their kids, what's happening to the standard of living they have, what happened to their money, what happened to their home back home, what's happened to their parents. The ones who lived with fear died within 2 to 3 weeks of imprisonment. Okay, it wasn't a good experience. They were going through hell, yes? But the people who were optimists, who had hope, they were hoping that the Allies were going to win. Hopefully the camp was going to be taken over by the Russians or the West. They survived that 6 months, or sometimes even longer. So what they actually realized, that the mind controls your quality of life. What I want to do, I want to explain to people and stress to people, because I listen to many in the marketplace, I'm in coffee shops listening to others, and they're consumed by this fear, okay? So what I want to say is that fear exists, welcome it, dance with it, okay? Don't live with fear. You're either fearless or fearful, okay? I'd rather be fearless, okay? No fear is there. Get nervous before these podcasts, right? Because if I'm not nervous, I can't perform at my best. Tony Robbins, 25, 30 years, performing in hundreds of thousands of people, he still gets nervous. He still pumps himself up before he goes live. And that's why he gets the best response from others. So you can dance with your fear, but don't succumb to it, right? Be fearless, not fearful. And your quality of life and your legacy depends on the way you deal with fear. So it's okay. It's okay to listen to the news. It's okay to play safe. But here's the thing. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a salesman, you have to be fearless. You have to go there and don't fear rejection. Don't fear what other people think, right? Accept it. This is part of life. And everything is about habits, right? So if you are sitting at home, shit scared to leave, shit scared to communicate. And another point is that when you live in fear, like if you're sick, the brain has a very strange way of dealing with us and playing games with us. Because if you're sick, you have a sore throat, you don't remember the time you were well. And you think that you're going to have this sore throat forever. If you got a bad toothache, you think this toothache is going to last forever. And one of the challenges now, I speak to people and they really believe that this masks and social distancing will last forever. It won't. It won't. Humans been through 1,000 worse things in their history than what we're going through today. We're just soft, right? If you believe things shall soon pass, you gear yourself up for that change, okay? Welcome change. Change, most people don't like change. Be fearless. Plan for when it changes. Don't sit on your ass, don't sit on your hands and let the world dictate what happens to your life, okay? So I hope you take some of that. Here's a book of one of my heroes, Muhammad Ali. Now this guy, he was fearless. He, I think 57 times in his professional career or thereabouts, he fought the hardest men on the planet, okay? And we talked about the mindset of Muhammad Ali and how at the age of 14 or 15, he was saying he was the greatest of all time. Now, he died and he finished boxing 30, 40 years ago. Now, his legacy lives on because he was fearless. When there was prejudice, there was racism, he stood up as a black man amongst white people. When people couldn't sit in front of the bus, black people, they couldn't go to the same bathrooms, he stood up for the black man. He stood up for the Muslims. He stood up. He was fearless. When he was the world champion, he was a world champion for 3.5 years because he stood up for his beliefs of anti-war and peace. They took his belt away and all his income away. But he didn't quit. He came back as the greatest boxing champion ever lived. And all of us have that greatness within. So I have this at reception of my office, and every time I walk past him, it reminds me of how great we can all be. We all have that greatness within. So I urge you, when you talk about these times, know that it will pass. Practice being proactive, practice being a champion, practice being a gladiator, and this stays with you forever.
Yes.
Okay? So I hope you found that valuable. Any questions?
Yes. First, do you have any questions?
Hello, everybody.
So the first question we have, should I go with my passion for food or with what I'm good at, which is hair extensions? I have 10 years of experience making wigs, and there is a demand for wigs and hair extensions here in Dubai.
Okay. Why would you ask me a question about wigs? Because I have zero experience in hairdressing or hair growth or hair extensions. But I'll give you my best shot. If doing hair extensions or wigs brings you money, take that money and put a plan together and follow your passion. We live in a world of internet. We live in a world of connectivity. So you can actually do your online courses, you can teach people, you can do things part-time. But if you're not passionate about putting wigs together or hair extensions, put a time scale, save the money, and decide when you're going to start following your passion. Now, often people think the moment I follow my passion, I get profits. It's not true, right? Be prepared to have some challenging times. If you're lucky, and if you're smart, and you speak to business leaders, or they might advise you, I tell you what, if you can somehow are connected to, I don't know, Rihanna, the singer, or Kim Kardashian, and she's something, it's like there's a story about Spanx, right? And the owner of Spanx is a billionaire, solely because Oprah Winfrey said this is the best tights that she's ever worn. Okay? So if you're really, really smart and get a massive influencer like Oprah Winfrey or Kim Kardashian to talk about your cooking classes, you'll hit it lucky. But then it's 1 in a million. So when you set up, it's not everywhere with everyone. So you can be as smart as possible, but be prepared to go through hard times.
Okay, great. Next question.
But don't talk about hair ever again.
In your second question, in your opinion, entrepreneurs are made or born?
I think they're born. I can't run 100 meters sub 10 seconds. I can't, I'm not no Einstein, despite what you might think. I'm just joking. So there's certain things in our DNA that I could never paint like Picasso or Michelangelo or play music like Mozart. There's something or be a chess grandmaster. There's certain things that people have gifts that's given to them, right? It's whether they realize it. Now, when you look at the entrepreneurs in the world, they always had this mentality about trading. So what you find is most entrepreneurs, be it Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, they've always traded. They've always sold something made. Who's the guy who owns Dallas Cowboys? Mark Cuban. Since the age of 13, he's been trading, running clubs, bars, everything, you name it. They're in the business of making money. So they have a DNA about making money as we do about sports or a game of chess. However, their upbringing dictates if they actually bring that to fruition. There's lots of incredible runners, and I'm sure they can run faster than Usain Bolt in Africa, but or Jamaica, but they may never get the opportunity to be on the front of televisions or where they get recognized. And a lot of it's to do with the upbringing. You know, when you're brought up by poor parents, they often say, there's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and poor people often say money doesn't grow on trees. So if you're told that rich people are not good people, if you constantly drill that into your mindset, you're going to kill all your talent, right? So if you're lucky that you're born with it and you have the right environment to practice it, Warren Buffett says, if you are an entrepreneur born in America, you got a gift. Because you're already lucky, because America is entrepreneurial country, right? So I think it's a bit of both. But DNA, I think you're born with a certain gift in life.
Next question. Do you believe we need a business and a marketing plan before launching any business? So it's the thinking.
Yeah, you need a plan. You need a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, turbulence distracts you. So you're working hard every single day, but if you don't have a destination, where are you going to end up? Somewhere where you didn't mean to be. And then you have to go back. Often what I say to my team is that before we start a project, have a destination in mind and a time scale. Because if you don't, you're not going to end up somewhere else. And to come back all the way, to start all over again, it's going to take 10 times longer. So always have a plan, but look at your plan all the time, because you are going to get challenges that you hadn't foreseen. And then keep changing that plan and your goals as you go along. But you end up within 10 meters of that runway in John F. Kennedy Airport, rather than you end up in the Amazon forest or the Arctic. Yeah. So always have a plan. It's amazing how many people approach me with business plans, or they want me to, how many people approach me to invest, right? And the moment I say, send me your business plan, they don't send me any, I'll never hear from them again. Because they're happy taking a risk with my money or other investors, but they're not prepared to put a proper business plan in place. So when I ask for a business plan, I'm actually testing to see the resilience and how much these guys want to invest. Because it's easy to risk somebody else's money, and you lose it, so what? But I want to see great business plans. I want to see what skin in the game they've got, right? I want to see how passionate they are about what they're going to do. And I want to see what price they'll pay if they don't achieve those goals. And but at the end of the day, I always invest in people.
Great. Next question. How do you approach competition? Do you keep an eye about what they are doing constantly, and does that affect your business decisions?
Okay. How do I approach competition? I welcome competition. I believe in abundance. If you, again, you look at the history of the universe, what's incredible is that when, for instance, Edison was creating the light bulb, there were several people in Japan and Europe where, for whatever reason, simultaneously were trying to create and invent the light bulb. When the telephone came, there were people around the globe simultaneously creating the telephone. It was the same with television. It's incredible, this energy of the universe. And those days, they didn't call someone and say, or watch someone on YouTube to find out whether they were inventing a telephone or something. So there's some energy in the universe that collectively brings new things into the planet. So if you actually deny it, it's like a horse with blinkers on. You know where you want to go, but you're not being distracted by others. But we're not the horse. We're smart. We have intellect. We have intelligence. So what you want to do is you want to use your competition to inspire you. Often I say to my staff is, don't look at competition, the guy across the road. Your competition is the guy in New York. Your competition is the guy in Madrid. Your competition is the guys in London. So be the best you can be on this planet, not just in your neighborhood. So I welcome competition. And when I was born, there was 3 billion people on the planet. There's almost 8 billion now. So there's 2.5 times more people, more prospects for your business. But there's not 2.5 times more competition. So there's more opportunities. For every competition, there's thousands and thousands more prospects. Just make sure you're the best you can be. Look at your competition, welcome them, because they could be more passionate than you. They could be working harder. Set them as a standard, as something to aim for, and excel. And be better than your competition, right? I never ever, it's amazing how many of my clients or how many people I know are consumed by the competition, or they try to sabotage the competition. I never ever hire somebody else who used to work for my competition. Never. Because one, they're gonna come stealing their database, okay? And a thief is always a thief. If somebody comes from a competition, works for me, and I say to them, do you have the database? Guess what? In about 6 months or a year, they'll be stealing my database. I'd rather get fresh thinkers. I like to get gladiators who are not afraid of hard work and practice and discipline, and teach them my way. Okay.
Great. Next question is, what is your take on buying franchise businesses, and what do I need to look for to pick a winning franchise?
Okay. There's good franchises and there's bad franchises. 99% of people who buy franchises, all they want is certainty, right? There are good franchises like Subway sandwich or Pizza Hut or Burger King or McDonald's, because the brand is so big and the locations that McDonald's have is always prime locations. So you're almost guaranteed that you're going to have traffic. You're almost guaranteed that people will come to you. You're not because you're selling the best burgers, because they know what they're going to get, right? We talked about experiences. When people go to a restaurant, that's going back to my experiences commented earlier, is that people don't go to a restaurant to just eat food, right? They go to have that experience. Life is about experiences. So if you go to a Subway sandwich franchisee manual, it's about this thick. It's 5 or 6 types of bread, so many ingredients, so many sauces and vegetables, right? But the manual is this big. So why do people spend $100,000 on a Subway sandwich franchise? Because that manual is what they're buying. They're buying that experience, the mindset, the know-how in detail, right? Most people don't even open the manual, right? Because most of it is common sense. Now, the other 99.9% of people who regret it is because they open their restaurant or they buy the franchise and they sit on their asses waiting for the franchisor to come and fix their problem. And in the UK, I used to have 6 franchises for one of my businesses. Most of them I didn't choose well because they were relying on me. They thought I'll pay the franchise license and I'll sit and don't do anything. They didn't realize that they actually have to work so hard they're just like any other business. But what they're paying for is that my experience, my know-how. But most of them weren't prepared to work for that. So you got to work it, choose well, make sure the brand is good, and make sure that they're there to support you after you paid your franchise fee.
Okay, great. Question number 6 is, I have an Instagram business selling dresses that I'm designing, and sales has been okay, but they're not growing. And I'm seriously thinking of giving up on growing the business to a design, growing the business to a design office or house. What do you do to make the decision to give up on a business idea or not?
Right. It's actually skincare and dress fashion is one of the most difficult business to get into because you're dealing with multi-million-dollar fashion houses like Gucci's and Louis Vuitton's because they have the top models, top catwalks, top branding, top promotions, and people are prepared to spend 40, 50,000 dirhams or 10, 20, 30,000 dollars on handbags that we know cost $100 to make because they have a label or a badge on it. Now, I do believe that the sales of those brands are going to slow down because if I can't go out all like I used to, why do I need to buy a Louis Vuitton handbag? Why do I need to wear the best shirts? Because I'm not going to use it, right? So I think over the next 6 months or a year, we'll see those businesses take a hit because it's not important to wear a Louis Vuitton shoes because you're at home, right? Again, this will pass and these companies will always prosper because it's just human evolution. That's the way the cookie crumbles. So fashion is very difficult to get into. What I always do before I quit on something, I go and ask 100 to 200 prospects across the board and ask them, should I shut my business or continue? And then let the market tell you if you have a viable business or not. And if they say yes, continue, ask them why. What do you like about my brand? And if they say no, say, may I ask why? And then get market feedback because what you think really doesn't matter. And you should have done this work before you started. So if you're passionate, you continue. But if the market continuously says, it's incredible how many people I see, entrepreneurs who go down with the ship. They borrow money, the banks, they remortgage their homes. They don't pay the school fees, they don't pay the rent. And it all comes back to bite them because they were too blind, they were too egotistic to see that the world was telling them your product nobody's interested in, right? So do great market research and be wise with money. Great stockbrokers, the first rule of stockbroking, do you know what it is?
What is it?
Don't lose.
Okay, how does that work?
Because they live or die by the fact that they don't want to lose. They don't take silly risks. Okay? So if you take a loss really badly, you learn from it and make sure you don't lose again. Right? Most entrepreneurs have an idea in the shower and they implement it the very next day without doing proper market research, without doing plan, without investing time. You know what they do? They go and ask their moms, dads, sisters, brothers, cousins, what's your opinion about my great idea? What are they going to say? They're going to always tell you because they love you. They're going to tell you what you want to hear, right? So go out there and ask over 100 people. Don't ask 5 people in a pub and they come and tell me that's market research. Ask over 100 people, cross the spectrum, and then they give you proper market research. Okay,
great. The next one is actually the skincare question. I sell skincare products and my e-commerce business orders has doubled in the last 2 months because of the lockdown. And at the moment I'm overwhelmed with the orders and I need to hire someone. Who should I hire first? Or how can I distribute resources?
It's a bit of an open question because if you have a skincare business and you in your kitchen putting the ingredients together and you got this wooden spoon, you're mixing it and you're overwhelmed because you don't have enough jars or your kitchen's not big enough, then you have to invest in bigger premises. And you have to invest in, because the more prominent you become in the skincare industry, the more the governments and authorities going to see you, that you have to pass certain tests and animal testing, skincare tests, so forth, to get your product in the marketplace. So on the other side, it could be customer service or delivery, packaging, right? So it all depends where your bottleneck is. Find out where your bottleneck is. And the good thing is you don't have to hire full-time staff. You can have extremely motivated students, housewives who come and help you, but more than anything else, make sure that they believe in your vision. Because when you grow, you know, when I remember a company called Aspar, and they were into organic and environmental friendly products. And what I do recall is that when they launched their company, every single employee they employed believed in their vision, believed in their message. So don't get somebody to package your products who doesn't understand or care about your skincare or what your delivery to the marketplace is, right? So never lose sight of your vision and your passion and your story. Okay. But find out where your bottleneck in your business is and fix it.
Question number 8. We still have 3 more questions. How can I deal with...
Are there any more questions live? Is my son in Thailand watching, saying hello? Because he never watches me.
How can I deal with perfectionism?
How do I deal with perfectionism? When I interview people and they say I'm a perfectionist, I think immediately they're going to be miserable to work with. Okay? Because being a perfectionist is the lowest standard. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because nothing's ever perfect. There's never a perfect time. There's never the perfect product. There's never the perfect team. There's never a perfect environment. So those people, one, they'll always procrastinate because there's never the perfect everything. Everything doesn't fall in the right place at the right time. And also they'll always be unhappy because the whole sales process is not going to run as perfectly. So if somebody says, and the fact is that we're not born as perfectionists, right? It's a label we set ourselves. I'm a perfectionist. Go back and find out why. Why did you label yourself a perfectionist? And what I find is that most people live to their label. I'm a perfectionist. I'm emotional. I'm passionate. I'm this. I'm that. But you weren't born that way. It's a label you set yourself or others. Oh, I'm a great salesman. What does that mean? Right? So people live to that label. So you can change. It's like whether you're fearful or fearless. Fear, welcome it. Decide how you're going to act towards it. You're going to attack it, flight, or fight, right? That's the way it goes. How are you going to behave? It's your choice.
Okay, great. Next question. My mom is negative about my entrepreneurial ambitions. I want to become an entrepreneur and build startups, but my mom wants me to get quote-unquote real job. How can I deal with that?
Okay.
Negativity.
Sure. Job stands for just over broke. Your money runs out before the month runs out, right? So I could never have worked in a job. I don't want to start at 9 and finish at 6. When I'm passionate something about, I start at 5 and finish whenever I want. And it's always 7 days a week. So that entrepreneurship has always been in me. If you want to succeed in your job, excel at what you do. So come in early, leave late, go out of your way for your clients. When this person's mom says, don't do it, they're living with the fears of what they had in their lives. And all they want to do is, because they love you, they want to protect you. And the quality of their life depends on the amount of risk you can comfortably take. So with me, and I know my mom's watching, Mom, I love you in England. My mom's had a tough life, okay? And her ability to take risk like me is not there, because she's always, as a single mom, she always had to look after myself and my sister. So she couldn't take risks. She couldn't afford it, because at the age of 23, she was a widow. So she had to always look after us. It was always about safety and be careful, and because things could go wrong. She never thought she was going to be a widow at 23, right? So I decided to become an entrepreneur and take massive risk. She was very uncomfortable with it, not because she thinks I'm an idiot, because she couldn't take those risks in her life. She's only judging me by what life she's had. And I know she loves me more than anyone, right? So instead of resenting it, and thinking my mom doesn't want me to do well, she actually overprotecting you because she doesn't want to have a life of risk and worries and stresses. But what you have to do is you have to explain to them that as an entrepreneur, you're willing comfortably to take those risks. Okay, so as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, risk is just part of the territory. And you have to explain that to your wife, your husband, to your partner, to your mother, to your family. And if they mean a lot to you, share that journey with them and prepare them for what you're going to go through. Because there are going to be times that you're not going to sleep. There are going to be times you're going to arrive at 3 in the morning and leave at 5 and get 1.5 hours sleep and you're restless, you got concerns and worries. I have concerns and worries now, right? But I wake up every single morning welcoming it. The reason I'm the CEO of 9 companies is because I take on all the challenges, right? I don't sit back and let the universe take control, right? Because I believe to be successful, you have the ability to make change and inspire others to move with you. But you got to be able to take the knocks more than anybody else can, right? So, and your finances and your destiny is dictated by the amount of risk you can take and how you overcome your challenges. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
So love your mom and welcome her. Just her values are different to yours. Doesn't mean there's a right and wrong. Okay. But you know what? She'll love you more when you're paying her rent. You send her on holidays. You get in the car that she wants. Okay. It's just a matter of time.
The last question we have on the list now is, I always feel awkward about pricing or mentioning price. How can I be more comfortable talking about price?
Right. When you sell something that you don't believe in, you're going to have problems with the price. When you realize that you're selling something that adds value to somebody else's life or somebody else's business, and you can measure that value. So if somebody charges, I charge you $10 for a service, but after that $10 service, you make $20, I'm doing you a favor, right? So people have challenges with price because they don't value themselves. They don't value their experience, they don't value their knowledge, and they certainly don't value the service that they're giving. So work on valuing yourself. And the market will pay. The market will pay what you think you're worth. So work on yourself. Is somebody asking a question?
We have a question, but after you finish.
Okay. No, I'm done. What's the question?
We have a question from Litness X Marketing. The question is, what are the qualities and skills of the best marketers?
All right. It's a really good question. What are the qualities and skills of the best marketeers? Because I meet a lot of marketing people who, it's a really good question. I love that question. Because I think everything you do with marketing should be measurable, right? Otherwise it's branding. If I don't want to work for Coke, I don't want to work for Visa, I don't want to work for McDonald's, and say, right, I have $10 million budget and I'm going to put 5 hoardings on Sheikh Zayed Road or on this motorway or this Autobahn, and I know 50 million people will see it every month, right? But I can't measure how many people walk into the branch because they're given millions to play with, right? My background is poor, okay? Actually, if you look at my life, is that I'm from a poor background, but thanks to my mom, she always thought I was rich. She always thought that I could afford to have the best clothes, fly first class. So she trained me not to look at my environment that I lived in. She trained me to always want the best. She always made me think that I could achieve it. So I thank you, Mom, for that. So the mindset is to be creative. You don't have to send 1 million emails to catch one person, but you could actually be very creative to catch that person. So when I'm looking at great marketeers, I'm not looking at people who spend money and they don't even care about return on investment. Marketing should be linked to sales. You spend, what's the return for it? Because I've never had the luxury of having loads of money, right? So I'm looking for passionate people. I'm looking at people who actually want to measure return on investment for every dollar they spend on marketing. I hope that answers the question. Anybody else?
We have another question from No Luba. How do you choose your priorities in business? Any scale?
Okay, how do I choose my priorities in business? When I go into a client, they have, I call it, it's like the juggling. You have loads of, as an entrepreneur, you have lots of balls in the air and you don't know which one, and you get to catch this one, 3 drop, and constantly you're juggling balls, right? So the first thing I say to my clients is, what's your lowest hanging fruit? Where is the one that you can give the least amount of effort and gets you the most amount of results? That should be your target. That should be your priority. So go out there and constantly, every single day, evaluate where you can actually have the most amount of returns for least amount of work. And then do the toughest challenge. Once you've achieved that, go for your toughest one. Because if we constantly avoid the toughest challenge, we keep telling ourselves that we actually are not gladiators, we're losers, and we don't tackle big challenges, right? So the moment you tackle that hardest challenge, the second priority, you feel powerful. You feel like a gladiator. You go out there in the marketplace and conquer all. So go for the lowest hanging fruit, most amount of returns for least amount of work. Hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Okay, great. So how long have we been? 40 odd minutes. I think 42, 43 minutes is our, yeah, it is. The alarm in my head goes. Guys, face your fears. Don't avoid fear. Be fearless and welcome it, because it's just part of our nature. I love you very much. I respect you. Gladiators, I salute you, and I'll see you. What day is it today?
Today is Monday.
Today, Monday. I'll see you on Thursday at midday.
Yes.
Love you very much. Take care.